I'm Josephine. I'm 28. And the first thing my parents said when they landed in Europe for the luxury vacation I paid for was, you didn't have to come. You could have just sent us the tickets and money. I stood there in the arrivals hall, holding a little cardboard sign that said, Mom and Dad, welcome to Europe, like some cheesy movie glitch. And suddenly I felt like the punchline of a cruel joke. That was the moment I realized this trip wasn't going to fix anything between us. It was going to expose everything. I'd spent almost a year planning this trip. Paris, Rome, Barcelona, a dream European vacation. I upgraded their seats, booked charming hotels with balconies, reserved restaurants with Eiffel Tower views. I told everyone, I'm finally giving something back to my parents. They sacrificed so much, but as they walked toward me through the automatic doors at Charles de Gaulle Airport, wheelie bags bumping behind them, my mother's lips were already pressed into that familiar thin line of disappointment. You look tired, Josephine, she said instead of hello. And you gained weight. My dad didn't hug me. He looked around, sweeping the terminal with his eyes, and said, So, this is it? No driver? We have to drag these bags ourselves? I laughed awkwardly, trying not to let it bother me. There's a train that goes straight into the city. It's really easy. That's when my mom dropped the line that left me completely speechless. You didn't have to come. You could have just sent us the tickets and money. We wanted a trip, not emotional drama. Emotional drama. That was their term for me. To understand why that line hit so hard, you need to know where I come from. I grew up in a small town. My parents, Linda and Mark, were strict, conservative, and very vocal about their expectations. I was the oldest child, the responsible one, and my younger brother Daniel was the golden boy. If Daniel got a B, it was. He's so smart. He just needs to focus a little more. If I got an A, it was. Why not a plus? You're slipping. When I got a scholarship to study computer science in London, my parents didn't say they were proud of me. My mother just frowned and said, Europe? So far from home. And who's going to look after us when we're old? Not Daniel. He's sensitive. That will be on you. I was 19. I swallowed the guilt, packed my bags, and left anyway. Over the years, I sent money home. At first, small amounts. Then, as my salary grew in tech, more serious transfers, for home repairs, Dad's blood pressure meds, Daniel's tuition, the new fridge, the leaking roof. Whenever my phone buzzed with a message from Mom, it was almost always the same. We really need your help this month. Your father is sick. Can you send something? Daniel needs a new laptop. You know how important his future is. I kept telling myself this was love. This is what a good daughter does. I thought if I just gave enough, eventually they would see me, appreciate me, maybe even say they were proud. Spoiler, they didn't. The turning point came when I got my first big bonus. I remember staring at the number on my screen, my heart racing. It was more money than my parents made in a year. My colleagues joked about blowing it all on a car or designer bags. But all I could think was, I can finally do something big for my family. That's how the idea for the Europe trip was born. Mom, Dad, I said on a video call, I want to bring you here. To Europe, a full week. Paris, Rome, and Barcelona. I'll pay for everything. My mother's eyes flashed with something I thought was joy. My dad's eyebrows shot up. Everything? He repeated, everything. I nodded. Flights, hotels, food. It's my gift to you. To say thank you. My mom sniffed. Well, that's the least you can do after moving so far away. I brushed it off. I was used to that kind of comment. Dad started calculating how many church friends he could brag to. Mom asked about hotel star ratings. I planned like a maniac. Bookings, confirmations, printed itineraries. I wanted it to be perfect. I imagined slow walks along the Seine, laughing in little cafes, showing them the world they'd only seen in movies. I thought maybe they'd finally see me as more than their walking wallet. Instead, they landed and complained that there was no driver. We made our way toward the train station. I took their heavy bags, but Mom swatted my hand away. Careful with that one. It has your father's good shoes, she hissed. Dad tugged at his jacket. You should have told us about the flight class. Economy is cramped. Daniel would never put us in economy. I stared at him. Daniel has never put you on any flight. My mother rolled her eyes. He would if he had your opportunities. You're the one who left, remember? Don't compete with your brother. It's unattractive. The words hit me like tiny, sharp stones. I hadn't even had time to smell the croissants yet. On the train, I pointed out sights as they flashed by: the graffiti, the old cemetery, the distant glimpse of Sacre Coeur on a hill. My parents stared at their phones. Mom was texting in our family group chat. I saw my own name on the screen. "Yes, we arrived," she wrote. "Airport is chaotic. Josephine looks tired." She added a laughing emoji. Daniel's reply popped up. "She always overdoses everything. Don't let her guilt trip you." I pretended I didn't see it. I forced a smile and told them about the little bakery near our Airbnb. "You're going to love the croissants," I said. "They're still warm in the morning." Mom looked up finally. "You booked an Airbnb, not a hotel?" "It's a really nice one," I assured her. "Balcony with a view of the Eiffel Tower." She pursed her lips. "We didn't come all the way to Europe for some rented apartment." "Don't you have enough money for a real hotel?" I swallowed hard. "You'll see. It's special." They didn't speak to me for the rest of the train ride. The Airbnb really was beautiful. Light streaming through tall windows, tiny wrought iron balcony, a postcard view of the Eiffel Tower in the distance. I watched their faces as they stepped inside, hoping please, just once to see genuine delight. Dad's first comment: "It's smaller than I imagined." "Mom, where's the breakfast buffet?" "Don't tell me we have to cook." "I thought we could do some local bakeries," I said weakly. "It's part of the experience." Mom made a disappointed noise. "You know, Josephine, you're always making things harder than they need to be." We unpacked in tense silence. I'd bought them both little welcome gifts: Dad's favorite cologne, a silk scarf for Mom in her favorite shade of blue. I handed them over with a hopeful smile. Mom barely unfolded the scarf. "Why this color?" "You know, I look fat in this." Dad sniffed the cologne. "You should have asked first." "What if I don't like it?" I laughed. But it came out brittle. "You can exchange it if you want. You always waste money," Mom muttered. "No wonder you say you're stressed." "Maybe if you listen to us." That night, after they fell asleep, I sat on the tiny balcony alone, Paris glittering around me, my chest tight. I'd imagined this so differently. I whispered to myself, "It's just the first day. They're tired. Jet lag. It'll get better." I was wrong. On our second day in Paris, I woke up early to pick up fresh pastries. When I came back, the front door was slightly open. I slowed down, hearing my parents' voices from inside. They hadn't noticed I was back. "Josephine is trying too hard," my mom was saying. "It's uncomfortable. She thinks money fixes everything," my dad replied. "She left us. Now she throws vacations at us like we're beggars." I froze in the hallway. "At least it's Europe," Mom sighed. "I told everyone at church that we saved up for this trip. They don't need to know it's her money." I heard the clink of mugs. "What about Daniel?" Dad asked. "Will he be upset we came without him?" My mother laughed softly. "Oh, I told him we're using our savings, and that we insisted Josephine stay home because she's always so negative." My heart dropped. "And after we get back," Mom continued, "we'll tell everyone Daniel is buying us a new car. He's the one who makes us proud. Josephine is practical. She's good for emergencies. That's her role." My role. My hands were shaking. The bag with pastries crinkled loudly, and Mom's voice cut off. A second later, she appeared at the hallway. "Oh," she said, startled. "You're back. Why are you standing there like a ghost?" I tried to smile, but my eyes were burning. I got croissants." Dad appeared behind her, his expression unreadable. "We weren't criticizing you," Mom said quickly. "You know how you are, sensitive. Don't listen in on private conversations. It's rude." I put the bag on the table and went straight to the bathroom. I locked the door and slid down to the floor. My parents hadn't just failed to appreciate what I'd done. They were actively rewriting the story of this trip so that Daniel, who hadn't lifted a finger, looked like the hero when they went back home. And me? I was the anonymous bank account, their practical emergency fund. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying their words. I told myself I was overreacting. Maybe I misheard. Maybe stress was twisting things. Then I made the mistake of checking the extended family WhatsApp group. My mother had sent a message I'd missed earlier. "Pray for us," she'd written. "Traveling with Josephine is challenging. She thinks she knows everything because she lives abroad. We're being patient," my aunt replied with, "Poor you. At least Daniel is still there for you." My mom had responded with, "Yes. Thank God for our son." I stared at the screen, my eyes blurring. I clicked on another chat. One between my mother and my aunt, one I wasn't supposed to see. I had borrowed mom's phone earlier to help her change her roaming plan, and apparently it was still logged into WhatsApp web on my laptop. There it was, in black and white. "We don't like how Josephine makes us feel," Mom had written. "She shows off with her Europe life. She sends money, but that's her duty. Daniel is the one we can be proud of emotionally. We are just using this trip to see Paris. After that, we will distance ourselves again." Too much drama with her. I didn't realize I was crying until a teardrop hit the keyboard. They were planning to distance themselves from me after they used me to see Paris, Rome, and Barcelona, and they didn't even have the decency to hide it. The next morning, something inside me had changed. I still made them coffee. I still smiled and took them to the Louvre. I watched my dad pretend to be bored in front of paintings people had waited years to see. I listened to my mom complain about the walking, the lines, the food. Every TSK and I roll every Daniel would have done it this way felt like pebbles piling onto my chest, but under the sadness, anger started to simmer. By the time we got to Rome on day 4, the anger had settled into something sharp and clear. We were sitting at a little trattoria near the Pantheon. The sky was turning gold. I had just paid for a 3-course meal and a bottle of wine my parents barely touched. Mom dabbed at her lips with a napkin. "We should go shopping tomorrow. I saw a store with nice bags." "Don't worry, we'll choose something not too expensive. You can handle it." That was it. I put my fork down. "Who told you I could handle it?" They both stared at me, surprised. "Well," my dad said slowly, "you're the one who always says you work in tech. Big salary, right?" I looked from one to the other. "Do you know how much this trip has cost me?" Mom waved a hand. "Don't start. You invited us. Don't make us feel guilty." "I'm not trying to make you feel guilty," I said, my voice shaking. "I'm trying to make you understand that I am not your bottomless wallet." They exchanged a look. "You owe us," my mom said softly, dangerously. "We raised you. We let you go abroad. We didn't stop you. That was a big sacrifice. This trip doesn't even cover it." My dad nodded. "Honestly, Josephine, if you were really grateful, you'd be doing this more often. And sending more money. Daniel can't carry the emotional burden alone." I almost laughed. Daniel, who barely visited them. Daniel, who never sent them money. Daniel, who they still somehow cast as the devoted son. Something snapped. I leaned back in my chair and said, very quietly, "You know what? You're right." My mom blinked. "Of course we're right. You're right," I repeated. "This trip doesn't cover the past, but it changes our future." They frowned, not understanding. That's when I started planning my revenge. Revenge, for me, wasn't about screaming or dumping them in some cheap hostel and flying away. That's not my style. And honestly, I'm too cautious for something dramatic and illegal. But I could do something far more powerful. I could stop playing my assigned role. No more anonymous emergency fund. No more quiet, grateful daughter taking emotional punches. That night, back in our Rome hotel, while my parents snored in the next room, I pulled out my laptop. First, I checked all the bookings for the rest of the trip. Hotels, tours, transfers. Every single one of them was in my name, because I was paying for everything. I made a few calls. I split the booking for our last hotel in Barcelona into 2 separate reservations, a basic room for my parents, and a nicer one paid in advance for me. For the first night only, I changed my return flight. Instead of going home with them after 7 days, I moved my ticket forward. I would leave on day 6, early morning, from Barcelona. I also printed out something I'd been too scared to show them until then, a document with all the bank transfers I'd made to them over the last 8 years. Every transaction highlighted. Lazy yellow stripes of my quiet sacrifices. Then I printed screenshots of my mother's messages and group chat comments. The ones calling me dramatic. The one saying I was just practical. The one where she explicitly wrote, "After this trip, we will distance ourselves again." Too much drama with her. I put everything into a neat little folder. The next day in Rome, I didn't say a word about it. I took them to the Colosseum, to the Trevi Fountain, to gelato that melted faster than we could eat it. I watched them take photos for their friends back home, already rewriting the story in their heads. Look how blessed we are. Our son Daniel inspires us so much. Our daughter? Oh, she's just around. By the time we boarded the short flight to Barcelona, I felt oddly calm, because I knew what was coming. Our last full day together was in Barcelona. I booked a table at a restaurant near the beach. Big windows, candlelight, cozy. There was a quiet hum of conversation around us, the clink of cutlery, muted music playing. My parents were in good moods. They'd spent the afternoon napping while I walked alone through the Gothic quarter, letting the city's old stones and narrow alleys swallow my fury. At dinner, my mom smiled genuinely. For once over her glass of sangria. This has been a nice trip, she admitted. Tiring, but nice. My dad nodded. We will have many stories to tell when we get back. Daniel will be jealous. I took a deep breath. Yeah, about that. I reached into my bag and put the folder on the table. What's this? Mom asked, her smile fading. Read it, I said. They opened the folder. On top was the list of transactions, dates, amounts, descriptions. Underneath, the screenshots. What is this supposed to mean? Dad snapped after a moment. It's my financial history with you, I said quietly. Every emergency, every favor, every we really need your help this month. Mom's eyes scanned the page faster. Her face paled. These are private messages, she hissed. She jabbed a finger at a screenshot. You had no right to read this. I had every right, I replied, my voice still calm. They're about me. And they're about what you actually think of me. I pointed to one line she had written to my aunt. We are just using this trip to see Paris. After that, we will distance ourselves again. Too much drama with her. Silence fell over the table. My mother's mouth opened and closed. You're twisting it. We were just venting. My father leaned back, his jaw tight. So what, Josephine? You want us to grovel? To thank you for every cent? No, I said. I want honesty and respect. And if I can't have those, then I want distance. They stared at me like I'd slapped them. You kept saying this trip doesn't cover the past, I continued. You're right, it doesn't, but it shows me exactly how you see me. As your walking ATM, as a burden, as too much drama. My voice started to tremble, but I kept going. I came here hoping this would heal something between us. That maybe, finally, you'd look at me and see your daughter who worked herself sick to give you the world you always talked about. Instead, you lied to Daniel, you lied to your friends, and you planned to cut me off right after using me one last time. My mom slammed her hand down on the table. We are your parents. You owe us respect. And you, I said softly, owe me basic human decency. We stared at each other across the table. My dad's voice was low and dangerous. So what now? You'll punish us? Stop sending money? Make us into villains in your little European story? I nodded once. Yes, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Their eyes widened. I'm not abandoning you, I added. You still have a room for tonight and tomorrow. Your flight home is confirmed. I'm not cruel, Mom. I'm not like what you write about me. I pulled my plane ticket out of my bag and laid it on the table. But I'm leaving tomorrow morning, alone. And when you go back home, you will tell your friends whatever you want. But I won't be sending money anymore. No more miracles. No more emergency transfers. If Daniel is the one you're proud of, then Daniel can step up. My mother's voice shook. You can't do that. We need you. I felt tears in my eyes, but they didn't fall. I needed you too. For years, I needed you to be proud, to be kind, to not talk about me like I'm a chore. And you couldn't do that. So now I'm taking care of the one person I can actually save, yourself, my father muttered. Exactly, I said. They tried everything that night, anger, guilt, tears, silent treatment, then love bombing. We didn't mean it. We were just stressed. You know how families talk. Don't be dramatic. We're old, Josephine. How can you do this to us? I listened. I nodded. But my decision didn't change. The next morning, I checked out of my nicer room, left their keys and printed itineraries with reception, and took a cab alone to the airport. I didn't cry in the car. I felt strangely light. Empty, yes, but also free. On the plane, as Barcelona shrank beneath the clouds, I finally opened my notes app and wrote. I took my parents on a luxury European vacation and their first words left me speechless. But their last words set me free. When I landed back in London, my phone was full of messages. My mother, we are so disappointed in you. Daniel says you've changed since moving abroad. We will pray for you. My father, don't contact us again until you apologize. Daniel, nice job making our parents cry. Josephine, I replied to none of them. Instead, I booked a therapy appointment. I went for a walk along the Thames. I bought myself flowers for the first time in months. For weeks, my phone would buzz with group chat updates about church, about Daniel's success, about my parents' health. I muted the chat. I focused on work, on friends who didn't see me as a wallet, on building something that was mine, and slowly, the guilt started to fade. Months later, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost declined it, but something made me answer. It was Daniel. His voice was tight. "Mom's been strange," he said. "She accidentally sent me screenshots of your conversation folder, with all those transfers, and the messages she wrote about you." I was silent. "I didn't know," he whispered. "I thought you were the dramatic one. I thought they needed me emotionally, and you were just, I don't know, independent. But you've been carrying them this whole time." I didn't respond. I just let him talk. "I'm not asking you to fix it," he said finally. I wanted you to know that I see it now, what they did, and I'm sorry I was part of that." It wasn't a full redemption arc. He didn't magically become my best friend, but it was a start, a small sliver of justice. My parents? They stopped trying to guilt trip me after a while. I heard through relatives that things had gotten harder for them financially. They sold the car they'd bragged about. Dad had to pick up part-time work again. Sometimes, I felt a pang of sadness. They were still my parents. But then I'd remember my mother's words. "We are just using this trip to see Paris. After that, we will distance ourselves again." So I honored their wish. We distanced ourselves. People think revenge always looks like dramatic scenes, shouting, public humiliation. But sometimes, the most powerful revenge is removal. Removing your time, removing your money, removing your willingness to play the role they wrote for you. My parents wanted me to be their invisible sponsor, their personal bank with no feelings attached. When I refused, their world shifted. Mine did too. Now, when I travel, I go alone or with friends who delight in little cafes, who gasp with me at cathedrals and laugh with me when we get lost. People who see me as a person, not a service. I still think about that moment at the airport, holding a welcome sign and waiting for something like love. Instead, I got, "You didn't have to come. You could have just sent us the money." If you're watching this, and you've ever felt like that, like you are just a wallet, or a babysitter, or a problem solver to your own family, I want you to hear this clearly. You are allowed to stop. You are allowed to choose yourself. You are allowed to walk away from unfair scripts, even if they were written by the people who raised you. If my story resonated with you even a little, hit the like button so this video reaches someone else who might need to hear it. Subscribe to the channel if you want more real stories about family, betrayal, and taking your power back. And tell me in the comments, what would you have done if you were in my place? Would you have ended the trip? Cut them off? Tried one more time? I'll be reading your stories.